Welcome back. Okay, so what's making news today is the Coyotes. And it's for the reason that the Coyotes often make news, speculation. Wild. Do you like your speculation wild? Because this is some wild speculation. But there's two reporters from Forbes, and they're backing each other up on this, that through an anonymous banking source, and I'll talk about it because honestly, I think the people reporting on it are telling the truth. I don't think the source is necessarily lying, but there's a lot more to it than this. So the report is that the team is for sale, and the idea is that they want to sell it to somebody who will move the team to Houston. Well, just on the face of it, that doesn't make any sense. If I put the team up for sale, I put the team up for sale. If somebody comes in and they want to keep the team there, it doesn't really matter to me. So you'd have to have somebody and Alex Mariuello being the one that would have to be saying, "Oh, I really want the team in Houston." He has been very clear he wants the team to stay in Arizona. That the Tempe project is what he wants. Now, what helps fuel these rumors is that the Tempe bid has not yet been approved. Like they haven't stamped it and said, "Okay, we're going forward with this." And the Phoenix airport's kind of fighting them on it. Phoenix airport has concerns about there's residential units that are being put up. They're saying, nope, that's too close to the airport. That's going to violate FAA regulations. There are concerns that they're having about the height of the building and saying, look, we've got airplanes coming in and going out, and where you're putting this, we can't. And yet there are other situations in and around that airport that would tell you that this is likely going to get built, that the Tempe project really shouldn't violate any of the issues that the Phoenix airport brings up. But the thing is, this process is not something that's just going to be rubber stamped and moved along. Like when they announced the Tempe project, that's why I didn't jump up and down and say, well, that's it. Arizona's staying in Arizona, because there's a lot to this. And the airport is also accusing the team of not negotiating in good faith, and the team's arguing that with the airport. The airport's like, hey, can we see all of your plans? And the team says no. And so that's a problem too, right? So all of this, and then you throw in this, hey, so I understand the team's for sale with the idea of moving it to Houston. Obviously, it's going to go and blow up pretty quickly. And it's understandable. Houston is a very big market. Houston is an area that I think if the NHL could have a team there, they'd want to, but on their time. And if an owner came in, let's just say, for instance, Alex Mariuello says, all right, I'm selling the team. In order for a team to be moved out of Arizona, 2/3 of the board of governors, 2/3 of owners have to say, yes, we want this team to move from this location to this location. So it is not simply a matter of an owner coming in and saying, so I'm going to move this team. We've seen that. We saw that with a certain owner of BlackBerry trying twice. And the first time the NHL was kind of perturbed, and the second time the NHL was downright angry over it. And we haven't seen it since. And I think they really made a big public spectacle of the whole Jim Balsley thing, because they wanted to make sure that, owners coming in with the idea of, I'm going to tell you where I'm putting my team. I'm going to buy it. I'm going to move it. I think the NHL wanted to make sure that there weren't owners coming in with that idea. So even if Alex Mariuello was saying, you know what, I don't think this is going to work, even if, and he hasn't said that, but even if, you would need a majority of NHL owners to say, okay, so we're going to move this team to another location, and that definitely would leak out. So I don't put a lot of stock into this. I do think that it's interesting. It's an interesting note that this is out there, but again, it's just they're the easy target. If this was being reported about the Canucks or the Leafs or something like we would all say, that's just crazy. There's no way. But because it's the Coyotes, we listen and we go, maybe. But again, it's not going to happen unless the league itself says we're gonna have to get out of Arizona. And I've seen absolutely no indication of that. We haven't even seen. I can't even think of an owner coming out privately to like Elliot Friedman or any. I've never seen a leak from an owner saying we think that Arizona doesn't work or we're really tired of propping up Arizona. I've never seen it. Fans get upset about it. There's definitely a lot of discussion in the media about it, but until the league itself feels that Arizona is not a viable market, and we're not there. Yeah, I honestly, it'll be interesting to see what happens from here. But the Tempe project is still waiting, and the longer that is delayed, the longer it's going to take for them to break ground and get the building going, and then that pushes back the date of completion further and further. And that's where the NHL finds itself in a little bit of a tough position if they find themselves without a building next year. Okay, so moving along from that to Montreal and back onto the protocol list discussions. Gallagher, Niku enter the protocol list, but Niku, depth defenseman, and Kulak's back tonight. So, right? Gallagher has been off to a slow start by his standards, and they're getting Perreault back tonight, and Weidman is returning as well. So for Montreal, there's 2 guys leaving the lineup. There's 3 guys coming in, which means that somebody's going to be a healthy scratch, unless Weidman or Kulak end up being the healthy scratch on the blue line. But yeah, so Montreal, it's a long season for them anyways. Now the more interesting one is Binnington. So Jordan Binnington's entered COVID protocol, which means that you have to call up a goaltender. Well, St. Louis doesn't have the cap space. So what they've done is they've recalled Charlie Lindgren, but he can't join the team today because of the salary cap. He has to join them tomorrow. So they have an emergency backup goaltender for tonight's game against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Ville Husso will start. And much like last night, where Johansson, it wouldn't have mattered how many goals he allowed for Colorado, he wasn't coming out. It doesn't matter if Tampa Bay lights up Husso. Husso's not coming out, not with the emergency backup there. So this is that situation where teams don't have cap space, and you end up having to get creative in order to put a roster out on the ice. And this is not protocol related, but both Elvis Merzlikins and Jonas Korpisalo not feeling well. And so there's a belief that maybe they both won't be ready to go for tonight's game. So that could be interesting for Columbus if they're without both goaltenders in against Dallas. So, yeah, that could be interesting. Dallas has already announced they're going with Ottinger for tonight's game. So that could be a tough one for Columbus if they're missing both their starter and their backup. And they could be in a situation where they have an emergency backup goaltender suited up too. So, it's an interesting time of year. But if you're a Carolina fan, the good news is Ethan Bear's at the morning skate today. But it doesn't look like he's going to play tonight against Ottawa. I would think that if they were playing against Florida or Tampa, or if it was one of the top teams, maybe he'd try to go for it. But it does mean that with it being Ottawa that they're playing against, you can probably set him out for another game. It probably doesn't hurt that much, and just make sure he's 100% back and ready to go before you put him back on the ice in a game situation. Now, here's the interesting thing. So we have this making news today about the Arizona Coyotes. So I looked into what's going on with the Tempe project and all that, and the Phoenix airport and all that. Now, today, Ottawa has said that the door is open for the Sens to have an arena on the LeBreton Flats. LeBreton Flats. So the LeBreton Flats, this is where the Senators were 5 years ago, and Eugene Melnyk and all the other stuff that went on took place, and it all fell apart. And so the Senators ended up out of there, and it all got ugly. But the door's open for the Senators apparently to return to the bargaining table and to put an arena in there, which tells me either they're being nice or maybe it's not working out the way they thought it would, and maybe they want that extra draw of the arena. We know that it doesn't work in Canada. We know that building does not work. It's not a good situation. The Ottawa Senators, if they're going to get a full building, if they're going to get the kind of support they're looking for, they do need to be closer to, Ottawa. And so the door's open for LeBreton Flats, which is right on the river. And, it'd be picturesque and all that, which, again, their current building is not. So we'll see. I'm sure Melnyk would hear this, probably raise an eyebrow and consider it. But that didn't end well. And I'm not sure he'd necessarily want to jump back in, but we'll see. It's interesting. Both Ottawa and Arizona are in the news today for building-related issues. And in one case, it's a, hey, maybe. And in the other case, it's a, well, maybe. So a lot of maybes on the board today. There you go. So I guess the question I have is, with Ottawa definitely needing a new building, and LeBreton Flats would work, and Arizona needing a new building, the Tempe project would work. Do they both get allowed? Do they both happen? Does one happen and the other one doesn't? Which one doesn't? Do they both fall through? Do we end up with the Quebec Senators and the Houston Coyotes? What do we end up with? So it's another interesting day in the National Hockey League because there's no days that aren't. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below regarding any of these topics. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. Just happened upon this video. Hey, maybe Arizona could move to Tempe and the Coyotes could move to Ottawa. There you go. Just switch. They could be the Arizona Senators and the Ottawa Coyotes. Sure, why not? All right, let me know your thoughts. Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.